This is Bioshock 2, Condensed. But first, let's do a rundown on the story so far.
Previously on
Bioshock.
A wealthy businessman by the name Andrew Ryan used his entire fortune to create an underwater city called Rapture. He wanted his city to be a place where the great would not be constrained by the small. And from 1946 to 1958, the city was thriving. The discovery of Adam was Rapture's most significant achievement. Adam is a biochemical substance that can rewrite your genetic makeup. Through Adam, plasmids were developed. Plasmids can basically give the user superpowers, like shooting electricity from their fingertips. However, Adam is a very addictive substance, and people began to go insane in its absence. The people that developed physical deformities and lost their sanity due to Adam were called splicers. There were other distasteful creations made from Adam, like the Little Sisters and Big Daddies. It was discovered that Adam-filled sea slugs that were implanted into a human stomach would produce a lot more Adam. Apparently, little girls are the only suitable hosts for the sea slugs, and so the Little Sisters were created, genetically altered children that were mentally conditioned to gather Adam from dead splicers. Big Daddies, the protectors of the Little Sisters, are heavily spliced humans in diving suits. They were also responsible for construction, maintenance, and mining. Prior to becoming mindless slaves, many of the Big Daddies were outcasts of society who no one would miss, like exiled criminals. So in 1959, a man named Frank Fontaine started a civil war within Rapture. The city quickly fell into chaos, and even more people turned into splicers because of the growing need for Adam. In 1960, which is when the first Bioshock game takes place, a man named Jack arrives to Rapture. Posing as a man named Atlas, Fontaine guides Jack to kill Andrew Ryan in order to seize control of the city. But in the end, Jack defeats Fontaine with the help of a couple Little Sisters. Okay, so now we can start with the main story. You play as Subject Delta, an Alpha Series Big Daddy bonded with a little sister named Eleanor.
Look, Daddy, it's you.
Eleanor is just doing her routine as a little sister, gathering Adam from corpses. She runs off on her own and gets attacked by a group of splicers. You go to defend her, but one of the assailants hits you with a hypnotized plasmid. Enter Sofia Lamb, Eleanor's mother and the main antagonist.
This is not your daughter.
While under hypnosis, Lamb tells you to shoot yourself. Oh goodness, and there's a lot of things that happen in between. So after the events of Bioshock 1 take place, Sofia Lamb rises to power. Lamb forms the Rapture family, which is pretty much a cult that worships her and Eleanor. A lot of the Little Sisters grew up to become Big Sisters, being incredibly strong due to the Adam still implanted in them. In order to produce more Adam, Lamb sends the Big Sisters to the surface to kidnap little girls, making new Little Sisters. Lamb's big plan is to gather all the Adam and give it to Eleanor. This would instill her with all of Rapture's memories, allegedly turning Eleanor into a true altruist. So back to the game, you wake up 10 years later, somehow alive again. Most of Rapture is in ruins, with a few splicers roaming about. You receive your first plasmid, and while recovering, a little sister comes and tells you to find Eleanor.
Daddy was sleeping for such a long time, and Eleanor has missed you. Find her and you'll be all better. Daddy!
Sometime later, you catch the attention of Bridget Tenenbaum.
At last, a signal. Please, find me in the Atlantic Express train station.
On your way to the train station, Lamb finds you and sends splicers to kill you. But you make a narrow escape by falling through a hole. Back on your path, Eleanor starts to communicate with you via telepathy.
Father, it's me, Eleanor. I know you're awake in there. I can feel it. Please, find me.
Due to your pair bond with Eleanor, it's important to reunite with her. If you don't, you'll either fall into a coma or go insane. You rendezvous with Tenenbaum, but your meeting is interrupted.
Citizens of Rapture, this is Subject Delta.
In Lamb's announcement, she declares you as public enemy number 1. After you deal with Lamb splicers, Tenenbaum gets you in touch with Sinclair, a man that will help you get to Eleanor.
Old Tenenbaum and I share an interest in the old Fontaine building, the very same place you'll find Eleanor Lamb.
The next train station is blocked by a wall of ice, so you're told to get a new plasmid, Incinerate, to melt the ice. In order to get enough Adam for Incinerate, you need a little sister. You find a Big Daddy and a little sister, so you defeat the Big Daddy and adopt the little sister. The little sister guides you to corpses that she can gather more Adam from. After the gathering is done with, you take the little sister back to a vent and you're given a choice. You can either harvest the little sister, killing her in the process, or you can save the little sister, turning her back into a normal child. Either way, you collect enough Adam to get Incinerate, so you melt the ice and carry on. At the next area, the train is stopped by a citywide lockdown. Grace Holloway, one of Lamb's devout followers, is alerted of your presence, and she makes it quite clear that she despises you.
when we hang you from a street light and you choking out your last, I want you to remember my face.
Holloway used to be a jazz singer, and she took care of Eleanor for a few years. But Eleanor was kidnapped and turned into a little sister. Holloway found Eleanor walking around one day and tried holding her, but that aggravated you and you broke her jaw. She assumed that you took Eleanor and turned her into a little sister, and so she's harbored a grudge towards you ever since. You find Holloway at her office, and she willingly gives up the override key.
Do what you always do. Come on!
So you have the choice to kill Holloway or walk away and spare her. If you spare her, she's grateful and starts to question her devotion to Lamb.
You've done more than just spare my life. You've opened my eyes. I need to put a few questions to Dr. Lamb.
With the override key, you shut down the lockdown and you're granted access to the next area. During the train ride, another one of Lamb's followers torpedoes the train. The train car made it into Dionysus Park, Lamb's private retreat that became flooded. So you need to get to the pumping station to drain Dionysus Park and get the train back in order. Once you divert the pumps to Dionysus Park, Lamb overloads the pumps at the pumping station. The entire area gets flooded, all for Lamb to make a point.
It is the world for which you strive. You, alone among the dead.
You make it into Dionysus Park, now completely drained. You get into contact with Stanley Poole, a shady guy who used to be a reporter. You find him at the control booth, locking himself inside until you do what he asks.
See, with Adam involved, every stiff's got a story, and Lamb knows how to read it.
He says that the corpses in Dionysus Park carry memories, which can be read through the atom in their bodies. Stanley doesn't want Lamb to find out about his dirty secrets, so he tells you to get rid of the little sisters that are roaming the area so that the atom that they gather can't make it back to Lamb. As you're going around, Stanley tells you about your background.
I did a lot of digging on you for a feature once. They used to call you Johnny Topside.
You used to be a deep-sea diver, and you accidentally stumbled upon Rapture. You were accepted into the city and became somewhat of a celebrity, nicknamed Johnny Topside. But Andrew Ryan grew wary of your presence, so he had you incarcerated. You were chosen as a candidate to become a Big Daddy, and so you were stripped of your memories and free will and became one of the first Big Daddies. As you deal with the little sisters one way or the other, Eleanor tells you all about Stanley's past.
When Mother was taken away, Stanley was left in charge of Dionysus Park. He spent all her money through these mad parties. It was like he was trying to ruin her.
Eleanor was going to rat him out, so Stanley sold her to an orphanage, which led to her becoming a little sister. In order to cover up his misdeeds, Stanley flooded Dionysus Park, killing everyone inside. After all the little sisters are dealt with, Lamb reveals that she knew all along about Stanley's wrongdoings. She also reveals that Stanley was the one that turned you in.
It was Stanley who turned you into Ryan. He is responsible for what you have become.
Lamb unlocks the control booth, and you're given the option to kill or spare him.
I swear it wasn't personal, okay? Don't, please.
Either way, you continue on to Fontaine Futuristics, a research facility. You find the audio logs of Gilbert Alexander, a scientist who was heavily involved in the creation of Big Daddies.
And by the time you hear this, I will be clinically insane. I am recording these diaries in advance as a last-ditch effort to assist anyone I might threaten in dealing with me.
You meet Gilbert, who's going around in his security bot, now calling himself Alexander the Great.
Understand, sir, that I am Alex the Great. The company is an organism, my friend. And I can kiss you right back out into the ocean with just a little squeeze.
Through more audio logs, past Gilbert guides you to stop his present self. You find out about a hidden laboratory where Gilbert's physical body is at. Using atom-infused plants, you lure him out to the holding chamber, revealing his grotesquely mutated body. You receive his genetic key, but before you leave, past Gilbert asks you to kill him, but his present self begs for mercy.
You don't have to kill me, Delta. I'm sorry. Please. I will go outside. I will live outside.
You either kill him or walk away, and you carry on to Persephone, a detention facility. You find Eleanor unconscious in a holding cell, and Lamb stops you.
10 years, and still she dreams of you.
50 seconds remaining.
Do you know why Eleanor brought you here?
She then exposition dumps on you. After you died 10 years ago, Eleanor had you revived in the Vita chamber with help from the Little Sisters. Ever since then, she's been watching through your eyes, your every action influencing her. Lamb is desperate to sever your bond with Eleanor, so she smothers Eleanor with a pillow, temporarily stopping her heart and causing you to go into a coma. You wake up restrained to a table. Eleanor sends a little sister that you can take control of. Through the Little Sister's eyes, the world looks significantly different.
Inside Mother's office, there's a way to unlock these chambers she's holding us in.
Eleanor asks you to find the parts for a big sister suit for her to wear. When you get back to Eleanor, she will harvest the little sister you're controlling if you harvested any little sisters.
What I'm about to do is perfectly natural.
But if you've been saving all the little sisters, she will in turn save the one you're controlling.
I will do the same for all the others, starting with this one.
Now donning a big sister suit, Eleanor frees you from your restraints. Along with Eleanor, you fight with Lamb's forces, finding a way to get to the surface. In a last-ditch effort to stop you, Lamb put timed charges around the facility's foundation, which would drop the entire building into an ocean trench. The facility is in lockdown, which means the lifeboats to the surface are locked too. The master key to end the lockdown is in the hands of Sinclair, who's been turned into a big daddy. Wishing to be free from Lamb's control, Sinclair asks you to end his life.
But I'd rather die a man than live like this.
After he dies, you take the key and end the lockdown. Back at the lifeboat, the ballast compressors are blown out, meaning the lifeboat can't launch. With the little sisters, Eleanor plans to generate enough heat to get the lifeboat to rise. At the therapy ward, Eleanor will either save or harvest the little sisters, depending on your previous actions. She enters the lifeboat's ballast and either boils the water alone or with the little sisters. You and Eleanor run to the lifeboat, but there's explosives placed on your way. Oh no! But you still make it onto the lifeboat as it's headed to the surface. Eleanor and Lamb are inside the lifeboat, which has been flooded with water. Eleanor will drown Lamb if you've killed Holloway, Stanley, or Gilbert. But if you spared all three of them, Eleanor will save Lamb.
And in forgiving, we left the door open for her.
So there are 3 separate endings, which, you guessed it, are dependent on whether you saved or harvested the little sisters. If you've harvested every single little sister, Eleanor takes your essence against your will. The weather is stormy and a bunch of dead bodies rise to the surface. Eleanor, who's turned evil because of you, readies herself to take on the world.
The world is about to change, and with your help, they will never see me coming.
But if you saved at least one little sister and harvested at least one, you get the choice to sacrifice yourself. Eleanor is thankful for her freedom, but she regrets the person she's become.
As I sat there with you, I wondered if even I could be redeemed.
And so you slowly die with her at your side. I feel like this ending makes the most sense. It seems like a realistic outcome. So if you saved every single little sister, you get the good ending. Eleanor respectfully takes your essence and the weather is all bright and cheerful. With the little sisters by her side, Eleanor drops a doll resembling you into the sea.
If utopia is not a place, but a people, then we must choose carefully, for the world is about to change. And in our story, Rapture was just the beginning.
Anyway, that's Bioshock 2, Condensed. Thanks for watching, my homies.
You will be worse. Rip and tear until it is done.